It's the calm before the storm for everybody in the playoffs. Avs taking on Dallas. We've known this for a while, but how did we make up this hockey team? How did we get here with these two teams? Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, presented by Bet365. We got Biggie and Rudo coming to you live. Part of the conversation I want to have today. Everyone talks about this all the time. When you are an organization that has made the playoffs multiple years in a row, but you keep losing to the same types of teams, do you build your team to beat those guys? Do you specifically go out and do things to beat a certain team? Toronto for years against Boston. We talked about this LA team against Edmonton. Before that, it was Edmonton trying to build themselves to beat teams like Vegas. Is there something to actually building directly against your opponents?
I totally believe in it. I do. And I'll tell you why. Talking about the history of the Avalanche, right? You can talk to anybody in Dallas, Detroit, and Colorado in that era of game. You can tell that they made each other better. How did they make each other better? Because you knew you had to go through one another. You knew you had to build your team different. Red Wings, NHL record, 140 points, whatever it was, and lose to the Avalanche.
Not anymore.
Exactly. They had to change their thought, right? They went and got Brendan Shanahan type of player, right? A little more playoff, sandpaper type things, and same thing. Dallas was in the mix. People tend to forget, Craig Ludwig, all those guys, it was crazy how you made each other better because you knew you had to try to beat one another. In order to beat one another, sometimes you had to make moves that were different. You know what I mean? And I do believe that the Avalanche, I think you look at what they did at the deadline this year, you'll look and you're like, yeah, probably going to have to play Dallas. You know what I mean? So we need more depth, right? Because we're not deep enough. And I think hence the moves that they made at the deadline. So I'm a firm believer in it. I know you have to worry about yourself. I don't think anybody would ever come out and say it like, oh, yeah, we're doing this because we have to do that, But internally, that's all part of the discussions, absolutely. And, and I think you go about your business and then go do what you need to do. And then I think in front of a camera, you're going to say, yeah, I mean, we addressed what we felt we were about ourselves. And of course, that's always the usual answer. But at the end of the day, dummy, you look in your division, you know that it's a gauntlet, in the West, and you're like, okay, how do we get out of there? Absolutely.
Got to go through those guys. Yeah, it's true enough. A fun little stat. I don't think it means anything, but this will be the 7th time that the Avs and Dallas have played each other in the playoffs. So far, the record, Avs 2-4 against Dallas historically. Yep. Both of their wins against Dallas did come in the first round, though. So, I don't know. Take what you will from that. Obviously, in this era, the Avs are 0-2 against Dallas in the playoffs with, actual players that are currently playing on the team. So
Marek Svatos, overtime winner. The late Marek Svatos. Good kid. Overtime winner. God, that was so fun. That was a fun night. I remember. That was in the first round. We did win that series, yeah. Mm-hmm. That was in the first round, so you're right.
Also beat them in 03-04 in 5. So take from that whatever you will, I suppose. When it comes to these types of things, is there a risk of over leaning into it? Obviously, yes, you know Dallas is one of the best teams in the league. You know that's a team that you're likely going to have to go through in the playoffs. So you want to build to beat a team like that. But can you take it a step too far? Can you maybe overanalyze and say, go get too much of X thing and set yourself up for failure in a situation like that?
Yeah, and that's why I go back to what I said a couple minutes ago. Remember the one line we can't forget? I said, of course, at the end of the day, you worry about yourself, right? You don't want to worry about,
True.
other people. But you worry about your own team. What are your strengths? We all know the strengths of the Avalanche is very simple. Nathan MacKinnon, Cale Makar. The best forward in the NHL, the best D in the NHL. So along the way, they knew their goaltending wasn't good enough. I mean, what do we know at the DNVR Avalanche? Look around the league today. I'm sure that it's not hard to figure out. We caught some flack on it, but it is what it is. That was the reality of it. I know as fans and as management, and sometimes you fall in love with the guys, you know what I mean? But you're like, you got to be looking in the mirror sometimes and say, oh man, like, hold on, am I really doing the right thing here? So they fixed that along the way. So, and then they fixed the depth and all that stuff because they felt that not only with Dallas, but against anybody, their depth wasn't good enough to go 4 rounds. If you look at 2022, they had depth, right? You know what I mean? So, and then they lost it along the way, which is normal. That's what happens when you win, right? Casualties of winning. So, but I agree with you. You can't focus too much on the other side, meaning whoever's going to be, because you're going to have 4 opponents, right? If everything goes well, you have 4 opponents. So
Yep.
You got to worry about what you do. But in order to worry about what you do, you have to have the elements with you to be able to worry about yourself. You know what I mean? If you don't have any weapons, it's hard. So the Avalanche are well equipped right now to go and to take one opponent at a time and go from there.
Well, Chris McFarland talked at practice yesterday about the acquisition of some of those guys and where the Avs sit when it comes to how they're built to beat Dallas. So let's hear what the GM of the Avs had to say the other day.
Just a reminder to raise your hands for the questions for General Manager Chris McFarland. Boldy.
Chris, just with Gabe playing in Loveland and now joining the team for practice, just how did you feel the conditioning stint went? How happy are you to see that it appeared to be successful?
First of all, really excited to see him get back on the ice and do what he loves to do. I think the 2 games in Loveland were successful because Gabe was on the ice and was able to play, whether 14 or 15 minutes in both nights, and we were able to glean some information on how it would respond, and I think it was a really good for him mentally as much as seeing where he's kind of at. Obviously, the conditioning part is going to be a work in progress, right? He's just now starting to, as you saw, he was out on the ice today in practice, and that should only improve as we dig in. As you guys know, practice time is like gold the last 6-7 weeks of the season, and I think what that afforded him was some consistent day-to-day ice that we weren't able to give him here. But I thought it was really good to see him on the ice, obviously, and a successful weekend for sure.
Eric, then Jesse.
Chris, when you answered questions about Gabe like 2 or 3 days before the trade deadline, you had a quote in there, and it was something along the lines of like, you guys can see where this is going. He hasn't practiced, and he's not joining practice in the next day or a week or whatever. Like, did something change since then, or am I just making too much of that quote?
No, I think he wasn't ready to play anytime soon at that point, right? We were still, he wasn't ready to join practice. He certainly wasn't anywhere close to being able to go on a conditioning stint. So I think now we're gaining more. Every week we gain more, almost every day we gain more information, to be honest. He just did something that he didn't do in 3 years. He played a game, and then he played a game the next night. So now it's read and react and see how he is in the morning and go from there, day by day.
Jesse.
We kind of just answered what I was going to ask, but taking it day by day, are you guys feeling confident that you'll be able to see him in this playoffs here?
Again, day by day, Jess. It's we're not going to get into whether it's Gabe Landeskog or Parker Kelly or anybody. We're not going to get into day by day lineup decisions on any player. So, but for Gabe, honestly, it is day by day. We're getting information every day to see. These are all new milestones for him, believe it or not. Something that I think he obviously didn't take for granted, but he played hockey, right, for many, many years, and now he's got to see how he's coming off a very unique situation that he's had to deal with for 3 years, and what he's trying to do is incredible. So, but yes, today was hopefully I didn't talk to him, but hopefully he's going to feel good after practice today, and we'll see what tomorrow holds.
Colleen, then Pat.
If he plays, do you guys have to activate him off LTI, or in the playoffs is that?
There's paperwork that it would have to be filed, yes.
Colleen, then Pat. Yeah.
What does it say to Coach Bednar's abilities to have brought this team from the adversity that he's dealt with all season and 49 different players on his roster to the playoffs?
Well, I think how I feel about our coaches, but I think Jared does a great job. I think he's thoroughly prepared. I think he has a good connection with all of our players. I think he's done a great job for many, many years. So in terms of the number of players, I think that's just one of those years where whether we were healthy or somewhat healthy or healthier than what we were this year, I still, I don't think that's sort of how I would gauge, Jared as a coach. Do I think it presented some challenges for our entire staff? I do. But I think, the way they prepare sort of day by day, the group that's in front of them, next man up kind of philosophy to gather points however we can is, I think, not only Jared, but I think our players, as an extension of the coaching staff, do a heck of a job for us.
Pat, then Sean.
Thank you for doing this. Given where Val was basically this time last year and the progress he's made to this point now, I guess how would you assess him on and off the ice and going forward into the playoffs?
Well, on the ice, I think Val's a force. I think he's, we've said it. You guys watch, as well as I do, his importance to our lineup. He's a unique, powerful two-way winger that touches every part of our game. 5-on-5, power play, penalty kill. So his importance is vital. In terms of the off-ice stuff, I got the utmost confidence and faith in Val. I think he's done a great job, and look forward to having successful playoffs here.
Sean.
I'm just going to piggyback off your last question there, Chris. What do you say to fans who say, we love Val, can we trust him, knowing how important he is for the reasons you mentioned?
Well, I think it's Val and what he's done day to day in terms of dealing with a tough situation, a tough personal situation, and I think the organization continues to support Val. But I look at what he's done on the ice and what he's had to go through, and again, have the utmost faith in him that he's in a great place, and he'll continue to grind it out here for us and be a good player.
Mark, and then Evan.
As a championship contender, how much better do you feel about this group from 2 points, game one, and from the time of the Miko trade?
Well, I think, this was a challenging year in a lot of respects. Obviously, there was a lot of moving parts and things that we had to make some tough decisions on, but I think from day one, I think we're a better team. I think we're a deeper team overall. I think some of the pieces, we traded some really good hockey players, obviously, and it's a different kind of mix. I think we can, we're sort of a still attack team, but I'm proud of the way we defend. And I think we've got two capable guys in the net that are there when we need a big save or we have an off night. I think our goalies are capable of keeping us in games and letting us find our way type of thing. So I like down the stretch. I like some of the ways we won, the different ways we won. We're going to need to be good. We've historically been a good power play team. I think those 5-on-5 becomes a little bit more, the power plays are harder to come by certain nights in the playoffs. So I think 5-on-5 is going to be key, and I think we're going to have to be dangerous offensively, but hopefully with some of the new additions that when it's a low scoring, tight checking, ground and pound type of game, down low, bigger bodies, that sort of thing, hopefully we can show that we can win in different ways.
From game one, did you have any idea there'd be this much work to do
No.
on this roster?
No.
Summer decisions are summer decisions, but when it comes to evaluating like unrestricted free agents or guys that could get extensions, how much do you weigh playoff performance compared to what you've seen in the regular season?
That's a good question. I think it's certainly part of the equation, right? It's the most important time of the year. You got to be careful, though. Playoffs can be, you don't want to make big decisions based on, 5 games in the playoffs type of thing. But, we're looking forward to, seeing our guys, assessing all of them, really. You get good information. It's the most exciting time of the year, so we're definitely looking forward to these, to the playoffs starting. That's for sure.
Corey?
Given all the moves that you've made, and then even with some of the injuries at the end of the year here, you haven't had like your 20 that you won. Leaving Gabe out of it, you still haven't had the 20 that you won with even without him for more than like a dozen games or whatever it was. How do you sort of assess that going into this? Like we just don't necessarily know how it's all going to fit together, or if it's going to work, right?
Yeah, listen, we're not the only team that's had to deal with injuries. Maybe when you do a deep dive and you look at it, maybe this year was a little bit more of a year for the Avalanche to have some injuries. But no, we don't talk about that daily. Bedsy coaches the 18 skaters that are, suiting up and the 2 goalies, and we go with what we got. It's you can't stress about that, right? It can be stressful when you're going through it in the muck, but everybody has injuries. Unfortunately, everybody's going to have injuries, battling through. There's very few guys that aren't dealing with something, so for us it's not something that we feel sorry for ourselves about or anything. Every team has somebody banged up or going to be playing banged up, so it's a results-oriented business, so that's where all the teams are at, I think, heading into this weekend.
Got time for a couple more? Anyone else? Jesse?
You mentioned you weren't expecting to have to make this many types of moves, and I'm sure there was a lot of times where it was stressful and dealing with a lot of moving parts, but is there any level of this was a fun year for you, getting to tinker with the roster this much?
I don't know if I'd characterize it as fun. I think we'd have to. Yeah, you try and do what you feel is best for the logo, right, and for where you're at in your cycle. And I think our guys showed, kind of the metal that they're made of, and we felt these things made sense. So I think, ultimately that's where it came down from. But in terms of, I think the fun part is the process, right? And if you feel good about the process, then that's what lets you put head to pillow, I think, down easier. So.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris.
The bright lights are on in the playoffs, that's for sure. And if you're looking into the bright lights, make sure you can actually see. Go get yourself some Shady Rays. Jump in with Shady Rays today. Head on over to shadyrays.com and use code DNVR to get 35% off any pair of polarized sunglasses from Shady Rays. They have hundreds of different styles to choose from, different polarization colors. They even have ski and snowboard goggles if that's your thing. Or, if you're E and you're trying to look younger again, they have corrective sunglasses too. So you don't have to wear real glasses. You can look cool with your sunglasses on. Go check them out if you haven't. They've been given 5 stars by over 300,000 people. And the coolest part is when you buy a pair of Shady Rays for the first 30 days, if you don't like them, you lose them or you break them, Shady Rays will replace them entirely for free. Again, shadyrays.com and the DNVR code to get 35% off your next pair of polarized sunglasses at Shady Rays. Once you got your sunglasses and you're looking cool, make sure you're also hitting up our presenting sponsor, Bet365, and using code DNVR365 over there. When you use the DNVR365 code, you put in $10, bet $5 on anything, you'll get $150 in bonus bets to play with. Always fun when you're jumping in with the app. And, Bet365 also an official partner of the Colorado Avalanche. So that's pretty cool. Highly recommend you jump in with them. Look, the playoffs are crazy. They're wild. You can make it even more fun with betting. Or if you want to, bet on something else, you can go bet on the Rockies to lose every single game this season. Also an option when it comes to Bet365. Make sure you jump in with them. They also have a bunch of great deals. I know we have some, I don't think I can reveal them quite yet, but we're going to have some DNVR-specific boosted bets for the Avs playoff run that you can jump in on Bet365 too. So Do it with us. Have some fun with it. Jump in. Make sure you get those $150 in bonus bets at Bet365. And of course, when you do gamble with Bet365, you must be 21 or older, physically located in Colorado. And if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER today. We did also, and let me warn everybody, if you just want to sit here and absolutely hate the Dallas Stars and do all of that pop off, you probably don't want to watch this next segment. I'll warn you that much. We did have Craig Ludwig on from DLLS. If you want to hear kind of the other side, had a fun little casual conversation with him, talking about this series, talking about where both teams stand. So let's hear what Craig had to say about what could be the biggest matchup in the West.
Yeah, just something nice about the team.
I mean, I love Jake Ottinger. Does he count? Is he the whole team? Can he be my?
Yeah, sure. I don't care. Whatever you want.
Dallas is too good, man. They make the conference finals like every other year. I don't know what to tell you. They're too good of a hockey team. The Avs can't get out of the second round, so if they could win a cup, they'd be better in this era.
Oh my God, Rudo, are you blowing smoke right now? You are trying to stick
I'm not
confidence in this Dallas fan base. You know what? I agree and I disagree. I think Jake has the potential to be really good. I think it's been tough lately, but when we look at the Avs, it's a no-brainer to say McKinnon, Makar, Nichushkin, and then I think you have the potential of the captain coming back. So, and I love Colorado, to be honest with you. I love it. I love the rivalry. I look forward to it. I honestly, I hope it goes deep. I hope it goes 6-7 games, and we'll see. But I think Dallas has to get some things straight in order for that to happen.
I said it on Twitter the other day. This will be the 7th time the Avs and Dallas have played in the playoffs. It's basically the Central Division's El Clasico at this point. So it's very common over the last 30 years.
Yeah, and it's I don't know if everybody looks at it as a rivalry, but I personally, I wish this was not happening now. I wish it was happening,
a conference final matchup, straight up.
Yeah. And that's, it is what it is. So, I think that you could say that about some other series that are going along too. But yeah, it's a great rivalry. I think when both teams are completely, and nobody's healthy at this time of the year, we know that not everybody's completely healthy. But I was actually just talking to Sam's dad upstairs, and I said, man, if I were Colorado, I don't know if you guys even know if Landeskog's going to play, but I said, you know what, I think that if he doesn't play in the Dallas games, and Colorado has a way to get a game out of here, at least a game out of here, and then you get it to game 3 back home, and you downplay anything about Landeskog. Morning skate, he stays out after, doesn't look like he's going to play, and then you come out for the game and he's the last guy out of the tunnel. And I just think the place would go.
It'll blow up, yeah.
I think it would, and again, that's a feather in your guys' hat if that happens. But I do hope, and we haven't heard anything about Robo. Nobody said anything. We don't know what the injury is. Obviously, he wore some brace on his knee, so that's out there. But I don't know what to the depth of that is. But it'll be. I sit there this morning and I was trying to write down how you plug holes. And the funny thing about all this is we haven't even mentioned Mikko, right? For me,
he's like the 4th storyline, yeah.
But I would think that, and you tell me. So, we're talking about the impact players and all this other kind of stuff in the series, blah blah blah, and I'm thinking, well, if I'm Colorado, the last guy I want to beat me is Mikko Rantanen. That's the last guy.
That's very true.
And then on that note, he's played with this team for 9-10 years, whatever. They know every spot on the ice he loves to be. They know exactly what he loves to do. So I think the team has an advantage in this because there's going to be, 18 players versus 1, taking away his go-to spot, his go-to play. So then what that means for me, well, then my next guy is Wyatt Johnston. You know, it'll be interesting to see if Robo doesn't play in a game or two, how Rupe Hintz plays without Robo, and what do they do? You know, what do they do as far as lines? And again, the way that they finish the year, their last 5, 6, 7 games, 8 games, whatever it is, it's a hard ship to turn around and get it pointing in the right direction.
I mean, Wyatt was fantastic in last year's series against the Avs, so definitely a guy that the Avs are aware of there. And unfortunately, Mikko's so good that even when you know what he's going to do, he'll still put in a few for you. So it's going to be hard fought. You talked about Robo a little bit, but the other side of it is Miro Heiskanen even going to play in this series? Because the difference in Dallas's defense with him in is monumental.
Yeah, and you know what? We haven't. The thing is you don't have any information. They keep everything quiet. Every team keeps.
It's playoff times, yeah.
right. But the thing is if you go off of how they went about with Tyler. When Tyler came back, Tyler was talked about. He was on the ice. He was out there skating with Stant, one of the guys here skating. Next thing you know, Tyler's in practice, and so he practiced and they have a plan. And I don't know if Miro's plan would be the same as Tyler's plan, but I would assume all players that are coming back from injury have certain plans, and some of it is similar. But so that's a couple weeks. Tyler came back, and then it was about getting some contact, which. You can call it contact, but there's no contact. You know what I mean? You want to bump it. The last thing
through this conversation with Gabe, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like if there's going to be contact, you're going to kind of just brush against him and things like that. The real contact comes in a game. And so that was Tyler's, contact game last night. It appears that he came out of it pretty good. We don't know how he's going to feel in a day or two. But anyway, so now let's go. If Miro has the same kind of plan, Miro hasn't started skating with the team to my knowledge either. So that step hasn't happened yet.
It feels the ways off.
Right. And so if you're sticking with the same kind of routine, we need to see Miro in practice a couple times or 2, 3, 4 times or whatever it may be. Because again, as important as it is to have him in the lineup, obviously what he can do, from playing against top players. And I mean, right now I can tell you I would much rather have Miro playing against Nathan McKinnon than Lyubushkin or Ceci. I mean, that's just that's the truth.
It's not even comparable, yeah.
Yeah, and the guy to do it is probably Esa Lindell because he can play that. But Miro has a different way about holding gaps. His skating ability allows him to stand up. And when a guy like McKinnon gets inside the zone and he stops and zigzags and back and forth, he starts to create more problems. So that's where they're going to miss Miro. I mean, Thomas Harley has done a great job, stepping in on the power play, and he's taken a step in general. So I think in a way it was a nice stretch for Thomas and for mainly coaches, because I've been preaching for a long time that Miro's good on the power play and things like that, but he doesn't do the things that Harley does. So there's a different way that Harley goes about it, and it seems to be more effective. But anyway, again, I think we have our hands full. My big thing with you guys in Colorado is when they addressed the center position and they got stronger down the middle of the ice. Advantage, I would say there, and that's really not. I don't want. In a way, I don't know if it should be an advantage because Hintz can skate. Matt Duchene, you guys know Matt Duchene well. You know what he does.
Unfortunately,
yeah, right. And Matt said it. He's been great this year. He's been excellent this year for Dallas.
Career year. It really, the Central Division truly feels more like an arms race between Colorado and Dallas than anyone else. I know Winnipeg is up in the 1 seed, but when you look at how those deadline played out and all the moves that got made, it really did feel like it was Colorado and Dallas going punch for punch in that regard. The interesting part to me is both of these teams felt like they coasted into the playoffs a little bit. The Avs definitely were taking some games off. They rested a bunch of guys. They feel like they're going in healthy. Dallas, they lost their last 7 or something like that. I know there's some OT losses in there, but certainly coasted in. Honestly, it feels around the Avs like the vibes are pretty good regardless of that. They kind of understood the score and were trying to get healthy. But is it the same in Dallas? Do they feel that way, or is there a little more concern there?
There's major concern. I hope there is. There needs to be. I wouldn't say Dallas coasted from the standpoint they were trying. Dallas's issue, we know what Dallas is. When they're healthy, when they're running on all cylinders, they're a good offensive team, and they can create things. But I think that teams have figured them out, and that's what you're supposed to do. I've always said the biggest thing about playoffs, and it's the coach that's going to make the adjustments at the proper time is the one that usually gets over the hump, because there's going to be adjustments by both coaches made. And I think adjustments that need to be made here, they're not going to make them because they played the same way. Their issue here for Dallas, and I've been on this for too long and people are tired of hearing it, but they keep on proving you right after a while, is the way that they play in their D zone. And so when players want to come into the offense or their offensive zone, Stars D zone, and they want to start crossing, and you want to start running little picks and things like that. And when you play the kind of system that Dallas does, you start picking your own players off. I mean, we had a scenario, was it 3-4 games ago, it was Sam Steele and Brendan Smith, and they were following their guys, and the players that were in the office, they were cycling, and they both went up, and they literally were crossing above the tops of the circles and ran into each other and knocked Sam Steele out for a couple of games. So that's an example of the system that they play. So again, this isn't a secret because everybody knows how they play. So Colorado's going to come in and they're going to be talking about this. They're going to practice this, and right to for the last few games and right up until last night, they haven't figured a way out of that yet because they're giving up the same kind of opportunities. But to be fair, this is the way that they've played, and they've been one of the best defensive teams in the league. Yeah. But as the season goes along, teams start to figure it out a little bit. And then I do think that the goaltending here has kind of covered it up a little bit. I think that Jake Ottinger has faced some chances that you probably shouldn't have to face, and Casey Smith has been excellent all year. So I mean, if there's an edge for Dallas, I would give it to goaltending. Now I don't know how Blackwood's been, but it sounds like he's been good enough.
Been good enough, but entirely unproven in the playoffs. This will be his first real playoff series. So look, I believe in Blackwood. I think he's a good goaltender, but you just never know what that looks like at the playoff level of intensity until you actually see it happen. And Wedgwood behind him has a grand total of 2 playoff games. So if it goes poorly for Blackwood, it's not like you have experience behind him either. It's going to be a trial by fire for the Avs goaltending for sure. And I would agree. If I'm picking one area where the Avs probably don't have the advantage, well, I shouldn't put it that. I do think Dallas has the advantage in goaltending. I think the forward cores are honestly pretty close to a wash. I'd probably like the Avs top end a little bit better, especially if Robo is out, but Dallas's forward depth is ridiculously good this year, so hard to argue too much there. And then defensively, I think I'd probably give it to the Avs if Heiskanen is out. I do think they are a little bit deeper. The right side of Dallas's D has some question marks for us when you're looking at that without Miro. But ultimately, Dallas has home ice. They're 2-0 against the Avs in this era. Deboer is 3-0 against the Avs in this era when you're talking about those adjustments that are going to get made. And the Avs in this era have never won a Game 7. So there would certainly be some demons to slay for Colorado if they're able to get through Dallas. Obviously, they have to go out and play the games, and we'll see what happens. But I got to get a prediction from you, Luddy. What do you think this series ends?
I'm supposed to say I'm here in Dallas, right? That's what I'm supposed to say. But I'm hoping, to be honest with you, I'm hoping they get to Game 6. I'll be honest. I hope Dallas gets to Game 6. But I have to see in the first game, in the first 15 minutes of the first period, to see if they're able to handle what's happening in their D zone. That's where I think it is. And then it relies on Jake. I mean, how much can Jake pick up? But so. I'm hoping Game 7. That's what I mean. That's why I say I wanted to get to Game 6 because I think then there's you can find a way to squeeze out a game maybe on somebody else's ice. So I think as the series goes, there's a lot of people picking Dallas in this, and I unfortunately right now the way I am today after everything that we've seen in the last 2 weeks, I'm going Colorado in 6, maybe 7.
I can tell you at least one person at DNVR picked Dallas in 7, so. We're pretty evenly split. I took Avs at 6. We'll see how it actually all plays out. Any final thoughts on the series?
I just hope, I hope it's a great series. I do. And I like we talked about, it's unfortunate that one of these teams has to go home this early, but it's the way it's set up. And I would love to see Miro come back because then I think the series gets better. and I think you get an
You want to win
opportunity
best on
for-
best, absolutely.
Yeah. I think that you want it to go down that way. So I hope for an entertaining series. I hope I'm not going to sit here and be pissed off the whole time and have to draw circles around guys, Chris Rotzen and everything else.
I mean, I think that'll be happening because that's just playoff hockey, right?
Yeah, I know.
Lenny, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it. Make sure you're going over and following the DLLS guys for the other side of this round one playoff series. And whatever happens, happens. There's a reason they play the game. So either way, both sides will have coverage completely for you. Make sure you're tuning in to DLLS and DNVR all playoffs long. Round one of the playoffs is kind of like the floor of the playoffs, right? And you got to have a good floor if you want to go on a 4-round run even. And that's why you need Empire Today to put in the best flooring out there. Make sure you get with Empire Today and get $350 off on new floors with code DNVR with them. Obviously, they're one of the best places out there when it comes to flooring. They make sure they only carry quality products, so you don't have to sift through a bunch of junk. You'll just see the good stuff and be able to choose what you want, whether it's carpet, tile, hardwood, vinyl, you name it. They've got it. They've got all of the types of products, but only the best quality ones. They are flooring experts. Bring the showroom right to your home. You can get a free in-home estimate with them. You can even use their online tools to see what it might look like in your space before you even contact anybody. So make sure you're getting with them. They got professional installers. They are just fantastic. I don't know. I don't know what else to tell you. They make great floors. Highly recommend if you need flooring. You can schedule a free in-home estimate today with Empire Today. Some things are just better at home. You know what I'm saying? DNVR listeners can get that $350 discount when they head over to empiretoday.com/DNVR. Or, of course, you can always call 1-800-588-2300 Empire. Once we got our floors in, then it's on to the next step, which is to relax after a hard day's work. Choose chill with Coors Light. Make sure you're getting in with Coors. And like, by the way, totally not related, but sort of related. Make sure you're coming out to the watch parties at the bar for the playoffs. A bunch of them are going to be sponsored by Coors Light. So you can come get Coors Light beers, have a great time, enjoy some playoffs at the DNVR bar. It's going to be a great time. But get Coors Light even if you're at home or you're at the arena or wherever you might be. Everywhere is a great place to choose chill with Coors Light. And the coolest part is you can get it delivered right to your front door. You don't even have to get up off your couch. Go to CoorsLight.com/DNVR. And thanks to Instacart, you can get it delivered right to your front door. Go check them out there. If you can't get to CoorsLight.com/DNVR for whatever reason, they're available pretty much everywhere, in the entire country. If you go into a liquor store, you'll probably find Coors or Coors Light. So jump in with them. They're brewed right here in Golden, Colorado. Highly recommend if you haven't had the opportunity to give them a try, whether you're out back grilling or enjoying a nice spring day, or maybe, it's supposed to snow in Denver tomorrow. So maybe you're cooped up inside and need a refreshing beverage, whatever it might be. Make sure you're doing it with Coors Light. Again, CoorsLight.com/DNVR, Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Please drink responsibly. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche Podcast. We talk a lot about experience in the playoffs. Both of these teams' cores extremely experienced when it comes to playoff runs. Obviously, the Avs have a bunch of cup winners and multiple second-round appearances. This Dallas team has a bunch of guys that have been to cup finals. They've been to conference finals. They've been deep. I got to be honest, not that I don't think experience doesn't matter. It matters some, but I'm probably a guy pretty low on the totem pole when it comes to actual experience mattering. Do you think it makes a difference in a series like this?
I think it does to a certain extent. I think it just does for the fact that your core group has done it, and then you've gone to the summit. Just think of the Avs when they finally got through the second round, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, now we've done it. You know what I mean? And then they're like, you're not stuck on, because you can use the experience of your, whatever you call that, losses from the few years before. You know what I mean? And you go back and you took it. You took it to a certain extent, but I think as a team, as individuals, it does matter. But I agree with you; it's not everything. I just think it's nice as an individual when you know you have guys that have been there. For example, I don't know, somebody that's never won the cup, Charlie Coyle. You know what I mean? So, hey, you can rely on guys that have done it. And I understand Charlie's played in the playoffs, not what I'm saying. Or McKenzie, that's never played in the playoffs. You can sit and talk with Kel McCarr about the nerves and everything. So it's kind of nice on the buses, in the locker room, at the hotel, at dinners, to talk about those experiences, to make sure you rely on a certain amount of guys, to help you through it. So that's as a group. I do believe it helps, because you can get through, and then whatever you say between peers, whatever you say on the bench can be helpful or detrimental. I've always said that it can be detrimental, because if you don't know how it works, you can say the wrong things sometimes, and all of a sudden totally derails your team, even though you're trying to do the right thing. So I do believe experience matters, individually and team-wise. So yes, I do believe that it does matter. I do believe that in this series, their experience will come in handy. And like you said, Dallas has had some experience too, but we're talking about winning it all, winning more series than none. And obviously, Dallas has won their fair share too, so the last few years. So I'm excited. I'm excited, and I do believe experience will play a factor. Yes.
Okay. I don't think it is meaningless for sure. I do think there is something that matters there. And you talk about this a lot. Guys that know how to win.
Mm-hmm.
That pressure is in the first round as much as it is in the fourth round. I know it might not feel that way, but especially when you're talking about a team as good as Dallas, a team that you just heard me talk about it with Ludwig, a lot of people feel like this is essentially what should be the conference final matchup in the West. So that's kind of the caliber of this series. Yeah.
Yeah. And I tell you all the time, I've always felt in management as a player over the years that, don't ask me why, I always feel the first round is the toughest round to get out of. You know what I mean? Because there's so much pressure. Once you get out of the first round, you can say, fair. You went from 16, now you're down to 8. So there's 24 other teams that are not as far as you are. It kind of takes the edge off. It just does. I firmly believe it does. And that's why I said, and then this year it just happens to be two outstanding teams, two teams that are good, that are meeting in the first round. And that's unfortunately, that's the nature of the beast, the way this playoff format is set up. And again, would it be different if it was 1 versus 8? I don't know. It would have to do. I didn't even look at it because that's not how it works. But so you would have some of the same matchups probably, or at least one. But yeah, somebody's gonna have to go home after one. So I mean, unfortunately, that's just how it works. But I feel confident, that the pressure, both teams will be able to handle the pressure because they've been there. And I know Dallas hasn't won it all like lately, but they've won their fair share of, obviously, rounds. So I do believe that it does matter, because it does matter at that time to make sure no one has a meltdown. You know what I mean? And you just do it the right way.
It's an interesting comment here from Joe in the Toyota chat, saying screw best on best. And it's weird because I think you can kind of be, I don't know if I'd call it hypocritical, or it doesn't really align necessarily in your head, but you can want to play best on best and win best on best and also not feel bad for Dallas at all. The Avs have had their fair share of injuries over the years, specifically in series against Dallas. Dallas has been one of the healthiest teams in the NHL over the last handful of years, so you feel like they were bound to get caught by this at some point. Now, yeah, I think it would be more impactful, more meaningful if you went best on best and you won it, but absolutely go take advantage of what you've been given here in a less than 100% Dallas team and go beat them.
Yeah, I mean, again, I agree with you. You want best on best. I'm the guy that says that all the time, right? I want best on best. I do. I don't want good players, like not available because of injuries. Injuries stink, and they're a big part of sports, big part of hockey, and I hate them because they're always going to be there, right? It's just not going to it's just not going to stop, right? That's just life in the National Hockey League. So hopefully you can limit them and you can get some luck on that side. But you're right. I mean, best on best. Well, guess what? The Avalanche, to get where they are this year, absolutely. Just look at what they've had to go through. They figured it out. They figured it out, and they are where they are, and they got 100-plus points, and nobody felt sorry for them, and nobody felt like, oh, my God, I feel so bad for the Avalanche. They have so-and-so hurt. You know, I mean, my God, that lineup was not very scary. I mean, it was scary a certain way. It wasn't very scary for other teams to play against, and that's why I say Bednar and company should win the Jack Adams, and I stick to that. It's been a long year. They've gotten to where they are. And, yeah, I'll never feel sorry for other teams, even though you want best on best. But you got to take advantage of what's given to you. And I'm going to use the line you say all the time. What's the line? You can only play the team that's in front of you. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't care if Dallas has 48 guys or you have 42 guys hurt. Like, it is what it is. So go play, go win the game, and go win the series and move on. And if you don't, evaluate what you did wrong, and that goes for both teams, right? And if injuries were a concern, or if injuries were the reason you lost, then you know internally that's why you lost, or that's why you won, or you know. But at the Avalanche, they got to worry about themselves now. I don't care who's hurt, who's not going to play, and again, they haven't had Gabe Landeskog in 3 years. Nobody talks about that. Like Gabe Landeskog, their leader, their captain, the heartbeat of their team. They haven't had it for 3 years. So, yeah, I don't feel bad for other teams. I don't.
I know the answer to this question. What's the more important returning player, E? Gabe Landeskog or Tyler Seguin?
I mean, man, for me, it's Gabe all the way, right? I know you know the answer. I know.
I just
Tyler Seguin's a good player. I'm not. No, exactly. Tyler's a good player. Hey, you're talking about experience. You know, Tyler probably thought if he was right next to us right now, hey, you won the Stanley Cup your first year, and you probably think you can win that thing every year, right? Because it's cool, and you go out have those parties, and it's awesome, and you're like, I'll be back, but you never won it ever again, right? Because it's hard to win. So, but yeah, Tyler's a good player, and then you got a first shift back, right? And then yesterday, and then 16 seconds in, he makes a nice play. Good for him.
Yeah.
You know, when you've worked hard, it's kind of nice, and you like those stories, but you know, I don't think you can compare, you know, and I know why I'm not saying the question you asked is, I get why you asked the question but at the end of the day, Gabe is Gabe, and, you know, he is a big part of this team. And they never obviously imagined that they would be without him for 3+ years, right? Or almost 3 years. You know, it's kind of crazy when you think about it that way. I mean, it's almost
wild,
unimaginable to think. As teammates, for himself, for the team, for the fans, for other teams. He's a guy you circle on the board when you have your pregame meeting. He is. There's no doubt about it. They're like, hey, careful with this McKinnon, careful with this McCarr, you know. But careful, guys. The engine of that team is Landeskog. You know what I mean? So now, to what extent will Gabe be able to give that to his teammates? We'll see. Time will tell. You know what I mean? Like Chris talked about it, right? Time will tell, and we'll see how every day is a new day for him and a new data that they're looking at, and then you go from there. But yeah, it's certainly a huge piece that would be coming back.
A couple other things I want to get into real quick, Rob, in the chat. We're going to do some of that on tomorrow's show, and we also do some of that in our playoff preview video, which should be coming out tonight, if not tonight, tomorrow morning. Yep. So that stuff, some of it's already out there in our older shows, but it'll put it out there again tomorrow and tonight. So keep your eyes out for that. Tiff made Ludwig and I say one nice thing about our opponents. I'm going to make you do it too. One nice thing about Dallas's team.
Yeah, you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say something very nice about Jim Nill, their GM. Jim Nill was a tough SOB when he played hockey, man. This guy he doesn't look like he was mean, but he's one of the nicest men in hockey, and nobody has bad words to say about Jim Nill. I think the players enjoy going to Dallas because of the way they're going to be treated, and it starts with the leadership at the top. We always say that Jim Nill is outstanding general manager. I think he does a great job, and then obviously with their coaching staff. So I would say I'm going to give props to Jim Nill, their general manager, for the atmosphere that he brings, and the players being comfortable playing for the Dallas Stars. And I think as a former player, that goes a long way for me in my book.
All right. I think the Avs GM was better this year, but I'm not gonna knock it.
Oh, C-Max winning GM of the year too. Absolutely.
Look, this series is not going to be an easy one. I don't want to give people the wrong impression, whether Dallas is injured or whether whatever Landeskog's coming back, whatever things you have that might be going against Dallas or might be going for the Avs. Make no mistake that this playoff series is about to be incredibly difficult. I think AJ said it on the show the other day. This Dallas team is probably better than certainly at least 2 and maybe 3 of the teams that the Avs faced on their cup run in 2022. So it's going to be a slog of a series. You gear up for a war. I'll put it to you that way. And when it comes to that type of conversation, I guess my question is this. Do you think the Avs are physically capable to go through 4 rounds of war? Because we know they've added guys like Lindgren. We know they have had Manson for a while. For a long time, a lot of people knocked the Avs for not being physical enough. Are they physical enough this year?
Oh, I do. I do. And I think that's why we're missing a little bit of the Josh Manson effect. He's different. Lindgren brings you that a little bit, obviously, since he's been there. Up front, Charlie Coyle can play down the trenches. He can play a heavy game. We've seen him play a heavy game. We've seen him control pucks in the corners. We've seen him take face-offs and heavy minutes, heavy minutes. So they're a little different. Brock Nelson is one of those guys as well, lengthy guy, a healthy Val Natushkin, you know what I mean, in the lineup makes a big difference. We saw it last year until he exited the series. And then the Avalanche are a different Parker Kelly. I'm not going to tell you he's a heavyweight. What I'm trying to tell you, he's a guy that gets on the forecheck. He's annoying. Logan O'Connor last year was an absence in the playoffs that was very noticeable. And Duhaime's and Shannon's, but they weren't comfortable. Like, they weren't really playing their game. Like Duhaime never really played his game, right? We all know what Logan's game is. We all know that it can be heavy in the corners and the speed in the neutral zone and annoying, and that's what Parker is. Listen, Kivy the Cat, I'm not telling you he's annoying in a sense like he is kind of like Lecky. He's smart. He's always in the way. And the Avalanche, that's what makes them tough. You know what I mean? For me, Arturi Lekkonen's a tough player. Because when you're on the opposition side of things, you play against him, and you're like, oh, God, not this guy, because he's always in the way. And for me, my era as a player was Dallas Stars, Yuri Lehtinen. I don't know if you remember him. It's the same thing. Those Finns are so smart. And then, so they're always in the way. Their stick's always in the way. They make it hard to get a shot off. They make it hard to just find a path somewhere. So the Avalanche are a little different. They're built differently than they have been the last couple seasons, and hence like early exits, right? But boy, oh boy, I think they're well built for the playoffs. I think they're ready to be built for the playoffs. And we all know if something happens in net too, Wedgwood is ready to go. So I think they haven't really had that since Frankie left, right? Obviously. So I think they're really, really well built right now, and it's awesome. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm going to ask you this question every day until he actually steps on the ice. Does Landy play game 1?
I mean, I'm going with game 1. I don't care what you see at practice and what you see. Again, they don't owe you anything to tell you anything and who's going to play and who's playing. I just believe he plays game 1. That's just my thought process. Maybe there's hope in there, and it's like obviously the love that I have for him. And I'm talking about just purely for me. We all know the love the Avs Nation have for Gabe Landeskog. I'm saying, but I know you think like me. I'm going game 1 because of what I'm seeing right now, and he's on the ice, and he played those back-to-back games, and and then you don't play for another week. So when you're talking about data, what I mean, like, I think it's not like it was rushed and say, oh my God, no, the game 1 is tomorrow. So I do believe he's there game 1, but we'll see.
He plays back-to-back games. After both games, he says he feels good. He's out there for the next Avs practice. Compared to what we were talking about a month ago, where he'd show up at practice once a week or whatever, he's clearly taken that step. There's clearly some consistency in him showing up. I think it would not make sense if he's not ready for game 1. Obviously, we don't know for sure. Anything can happen, but the way it looks sure seems like game 1 makes sense.
Yeah, you're right. And like we said, and just go with, and I'm not saying Chris is a liar, CMAC or Bednar. I'm saying you really don't know. Like, this is 3 years of pure insanity when you're talking about whatever his body went through, right? Just think of the roller coaster of emotions the last 3 years, from at first thinking you're coming back to after that, it's like, okay, hold on, I got to have that surgery. But you're talking about this much, and then it's this, and then that's the thought process in your head. In the meantime, your brain hasn't been out there, your body hasn't been out there, so you don't know how it's going to react, and your injury hasn't been out there, meaning we all know it's been fixed. But how is it going to take and that's why, again, I'm just saying, who knows? But I would think that you're going to see him. And again, if you don't see him game 2, we don't know. We don't know. This is all so I'm not going to speculate.
McFarland said it's day by day.
Enough for 3 years. Exactly. But my answer to your question 2 questions ago, I'm going back to it. I think he plays game 1. That's just my gut from what I see. I'm not a doctor. I say it. I play one on TV, but I'm not a doctor. But we'll see. But in my mind, I think he plays game 1. And I think it's going to be awesome, and I'm going to shed a tear for sure.
I do think he plays game 1 as well. We have a couple of super chats. One we missed from the other day from Pin King, who said, loud cheers from the Stars. If Landy returns game 1 only at the start of intros, I don't know if you'll hear loud cheers in Dallas, but you'll get a golf clap, I bet. They can respect the guy who's been out for 3 years. I don't know that they'll be cheering about it.
I'm as competitive. Yeah, I'm as competitive as anybody, and I'm a Dallas Star fan, and I'm in the arena, and I would clap. I would stand up and clap. I'm not telling you to give a standing ovation and go nuts like he's going to get a ball arena. But yeah, out of respect for the individual and the game. This has nothing to do with Avs versus Dallas Stars. It's more like, as a human being, like, how many times have you seen that? Have we ever seen that in hockey? 3 years? I don't think so. I mean, it's ridiculous. 3 years?
Kind of. Mario, kind of.
I'm talking about from injury. I know guys that make
sure.
comebacks, like Claude Lemieux made a comeback in San Jose after like 5-6 years, whatever it was.
It's different for sure.
But we're talking about injury, woof, that's pretty up there.
Yep. Can't deny that. We had one super chat from today's show, I think, as well, that I definitely know. From Melanie, who says, I appreciate your insight. Thank you. Go Avs. Go Avs indeed. It is,
that's right,
about 52 hours before game 1 begins. So the clock is ticking.
This is where you get excited. Like, as a player. This is, so it's Thursday night tonight. You're packing your bag if you're married or single, whatever. I'll speak as a married guy, but you tell your kids and your wife, you know what, tomorrow, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to practice. I got my suits are pressed. Everything's ready to go. I'm getting on the flight. Probably have a team dinner in Dallas tomorrow night. This is when the jitters start. This is when you get excited. You know what I mean? This is when you're like, this is for real. Let's rock and roll. Let's go have some fun. Let's go do this. And, and it's a journey. We all know it's a journey. It's a journey for the fans. It's a journey for the staff. It's a journey for the players. It's crazy. And there's so many ups and downs, and you know that, and I know that. And it just, you want to absolutely cry after a defeat. And then you absolutely want to just order the parade route after you win a game, and it's nonstop. That's what makes this game so fun, or sports so fun, when you have those long runs like basketball, hockey, It's crazy, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited for it. Look, I'm freshly shaven. I'm going to my GQ shoot right after. Yes, somebody in chat was talking about that. That's where I'm on my way there right now.
Must be nice. Look, it's what you live for. You go through all the ups and downs of the playoffs because every once in a while things work out. That's the whole thing with sports. Well, not the whole thing, but it's a lot of the thing.
Yeah.
No time for overtime today. We do have the Nugget Show coming up right after us, so we do have to get out of here. But make sure you're following along. Like I said, previews for all playoff series coming to our YouTube video over the next couple of days. So check those out when they go live. Of course, make sure you're getting in with all of our sponsors. This has been the DNVR Avalanche Podcast on an off day presented by Bet365. We will be back tomorrow. Make sure you tune in for that. And then, it's playoff season. Appreciate you. We'll see you on the next one.
We all silly like the mayor.